What's up, everybody? Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. It's Sunday morning, at least here in the Hudson Valley it is. Thanks for joining us here once again to another look at a catalog, taking out all the albums and ranking them. Today we're going to take a look at the catalog, the discography of Mr. Steve Vai. Of course, the great guitar virtuoso who's got lots of albums. Really difficult to just kind of pinpoint exactly what I'm going to include in the ranking here because he's got a bunch of studio records. He's got some live stuff. He's got some compilations. You have these little projecty things, some rarities, all sorts of stuff, soundtrack stuff, Japanese releases, you name it. So what I did was I picked out the 11 albums that I think make up what is his studio discography. Again, there's other odds and ends. I'm going to throw a couple out at the end that I didn't quite include because they're kind of oddities. They don't really fit well in the catalog, but I do want to mention them. So I do want to say I've been a fan of Steve Vai since going way, way back, right around at the tail. I finally, or first time, caught notice of Steve probably at the tail end of his time with Frank Zappa. And of course, when he joined Alcatraz and David Lee Roth's band, I'm all on board. And then, of course, joined Whitesnake, I'm on board, Passion and Warfare, all that kind of stuff. So really, it was probably about the mid 80s when I really became aware of who Steve Vai was. I've seen him live numerous times. He's amazing in concert. And to me, I don't always love all of his music, but I think to me, he's probably, if I had to pinpoint like one guy out there, one player who probably has the most talent, who can do anything, it would be Steve Vai. Like I said, I'm not saying I like his music better than other guitar players because that's probably not the case. But the guys who do this sort of thing, oftentimes people compare, and they're good buddies, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. I'd rather listen to Vai's music. I like Joe as well, but there's something about parts of this catalog and his guitar playing in general that really speaks to me. I love the unpredictable, wild nature of what Steve Vai brings to the table. And I think like he just can do everything and he makes it look so effortless. But there's so many great players out there, but I always have really respected him and his talents. Like I said, I don't always think that everything he has put out has been necessarily to my liking 100%, but there's a lot that has been. So that's kind of how we're going to go through this here today. So I've got the Prezi because I do have a good chunk of his catalog on physical copy on CD, but there's a few that I don't have in physical. So I'm going to show you the image of the cover for all of those. So let's take a look at, I'm going to start with number 11. I'm going to work my way back and we're going to go start with number 11. We're going to go with Real Illusions, Reflections. This is from 2005. This is his seventh studio album. As I will hit on with most of these records, tons of guest musicians on all these albums. Sometimes, the list is ridiculous. He's got a full horn and reed section on this one. This is a first of a three-part concept storyline, which he hasn't released part three yet. And this was 2005 when all this started. So here, very intense, dense, lots of stuff going on in this album. Building the Church opens it all up. Fantastic instrumental with some really majestic arrangements and harmony guitars. I mean, the guitar work on all these albums is spectacular. What else we got in here? Dying for Your Love, interesting vocal piece. He, on a handful of these albums, has quite a bit of vocals. I'm not always on board with the vocal stuff, as I'll talk about a bit. And on this particular track, I think the vocal sections sound out of place, right? So here you have a guy, I think, who maybe not as much anymore, but like for a while, he really wanted to branch out and do more vocal-oriented stuff. And in many cases, he wants to sing them himself. And it's not like Steve has a terrible voice, he doesn't, but it's not a great voice. And I find that on a lot of the vocal pieces, he strips back what he does so well, which is guitar work, right? So I find that on some of the vocal pieces on some of these albums, it just kind of like, don't give me what I really want from Steve Vai, but not terrible, mind you. Glorious is a pretty cool song, really bombastic. There's a ton going on in that track. Kim P. Dewey, fun little instrumental. Freak Show XS absolutely blazes. It's a really nice compact piece with some crazy, amazing guitar work. And Steve can shred with the best of them. Sometimes his way of shredding is a little bit different because he throws in all this little weirdness and stuff. It's not just balls out shredding. And I think Steve can shred, but he could throw all sorts of little things in there that other guitar players don't do. Midway Creatures, cool prog meets thunderous guitar shred, and Under It All is just a weird track that's just all over the place. In fact, on this particular album, a lot of it goes right over my head. It's just I like weird stuff. There's some just really weird out there stuff on this particular record. And I think he was trying to create this big, intricate, bombastic work that was, again, meant to be three parts, but I think it might be a little bit too ambitious. That's just kind of my impression with this album. Some good stuff on here, though. It's not terrible by any means. All right, next up, we're going to go to number 10. We're going to go to Flexible, The Leftovers. Now, I almost didn't include this here because, again, this is basically a collection of things that didn't make the original Flexible album. There's some Flexible stuff they did. He did like in a little EP, so it's got that on it, plus some other things. But I think it makes for a pretty complete album, and I think it makes for a really nice companion piece to the Flexible album from the 80s. So kind of like it's like a real true odds and sods collection, but some really wacky stuff on here, like little pieces of seaweed. It's just bizarre, but it's fun. Kind of like the Flexible album is weird and fun. This also, you got Chronic Insomnia, and then like Fuck Yourself, which is a crazy song, vocal piece. It's more of a rock song, but it's just bizarre. The lyrics are bizarre, very cool. But then you got some really cool gems, really great instrumental stuff like Natural Born Boy, Bledsoe Blued, Ex Equilibrium Dance, and Massacre. Really great guitar instrumental stuff. Really, really good. So, those songs make it worth the price of admission alone. Again, I think it's a nice companion piece to the Flexible album. It's just overall like really cool avant-garde guitar mayhem. Just really can't go wrong. It's very, very cool stuff. All right, so we're gonna move over to number 9, which is let me get rid of this here. Hold on, bear with me a second. We're gonna go with the Ultrazone. All right, which is his album from 1999. So this is his 6th full-length album of all new material. That's another thing when you look at these albums, it's like some of them count as regular all new studio releases, but he's got all these other ones in between. So it's like, well, what number is this in his discography? But yeah, this the Ultrazone is basically a 6th full-length record of all new material. And kind of like the album that came before it, Fire Garden, it's a mix of all instrumental pieces and vocal pieces. So this is right in the middle of his I want to do vocal-oriented stuff. You got Brian Beller on here, Philip Bino, John Sergio all playing bass on here, Greg Bissonette, Mike Mangini, Robin DiMaggio on drums. Lots of people playing on here. You got The Blood and the Tears, which is a kind of a dreamy rock track with some kind of female Middle Eastern vocals. Kind of oddly like intoxicating piece. I kind of dig it. Really good guitar solo. You got the title track, which is a really hard-hitting instrumental, again, with more of those Middle Eastern flavors. He was experimenting with all sorts of stuff, Middle Eastern and Asian type stuff for a couple albums. Ooh, Killer Vai, instrumental weirdness. You got a song called Frank, which is a tribute to Zappa. Awesome stuff. You got Jiboom, which is a tribute to Stevie Ray Vaughan, although it doesn't sound bluesy at all, and weird how he made it as a tribute to Stevie Ray because it doesn't sound anything like what Stevie Ray used to do. It's just a big acrobatic guitar rock with some lethal solos. Really, really cool. Voodoo Acid, zany as hell. Could have done without the little weird vocalizations that pop up during that song. Because I think it's a really cool track, but it's just like every time he pops in these weird little vocals, I'm kind of like, eh. But it's got, very cool guitars on there. You got the Window to Your Soul, which is a gorgeous instrumental with some just mind-blowing solos from Steve. Lucky Charms, bright piece, upbeat, got horns on there. Zappa Grand Wazoo era reminds me of, kind of sounds like, the Grand Wazoo big band type of thing from Zappa. Very fun stuff. I like that a lot. Fever Dream, just kicks all sorts of ass, heavy riffing, blazing solos, So I love the instrumentals on here. The vocal pieces don't do as much for me. Again, I don't think Steve is the greatest singer on the planet. And sometimes the vocals just sound like they kind of don't fit, like they're just there, right? So it's again there's a couple albums in this catalog that like I'm kind of on the fence about because I love the instrumental pieces, don't really care all that much about some of the vocal stuff, but it's a decent enough album, so I think it's pretty cool. So let's see where we're going to go to next. We have an album from 2016 called, let's go, Modern Primitive. There we go. Very cool album cover. This is his ninth album. So this is composed of material written between Flexible and Passion and Warfare, but never recorded. So he kind of went back into the well and took songs that were in progress but never finished, put them together. So it sounds, compositionally speaking, sounds very similar to that era of his playing and songwriting. A lot of people playing on this. Again, Mohini Day's here, Jeremy Colson, Stu Hamm, Chris Frazier, Mike Mangini, Mike Keneally, Devin Townsend, I mentioned Chris Frazier already, Philip Bino, and more. So lots of people playing and contributing here. You got a song called Bop, loads of fun. Dark Matter is really cool. Funky hard rocker. You got blazing riffs and lots of really good lead guitar work. Mighty Messengers. That's a pretty cool, catchy vocal piece. I like that one. That one really works quite well. It's got good riffing, good solos. The Lost Chord, that's a really cool track. That's like kind of dreamy pop. It's got a sizzling guitar solo and a very cool Devin Townsend vocal performance, which to me could have sounded right at home on Sex and Religion. Very, very cool track. One of my favorites on here. Upanishads, very kind of majestic feel. And We Are One has some amazing, slow, kind of moody, emotional guitar solos from Steve. Really good stuff. Lights Are On. It's kind of proggy, blazing guitars. And then you got Pink and Blows Over, big long suite, which is really long and really weird. 3-part suite. It's like 20 something minutes long. I don't get it. It just seems to go nowhere, but whatever. Overall, pretty good album, but there's a little filler on here. Decent amount of filler, but the stuff that's good is really, really good. So it's worth seeking out. All right, next up, and I used to have a hard copy of this, and I don't know what I did with it. I wonder if I kind of sold it back in the day. But this is a Fire Garden. This is number 7. This is from 1996. So this is his 4th full-length album, 75 minutes long. It's basically divided up into 2 parts. You've got phase 1, phase 2. So it's basically a double album. I think that was the intent. He really wanted to release a double album, but seeing as the CD medium was exploding, right? Let's fill up 80 minutes on a CD. He didn't have to release a double album, basically just release it on CD. It's essentially a double album, but the way it's separated. So side 1 or phase 1 is all instrumental, and phase 2 is pretty much all, I think, all except for one or all vocal tracks. Now, all sorts of people on here. You got Steve doing most of the vocals. Devin Townsend appears a little bit on here as well. You got on drums, you got Castronova, Bissonette, Frazier, Mangini, DiMaggio, right? So you got all sorts of great drummers on here as well. Phase 1 is terrific, really good. You get Fire in the House, terrific instrumental. Crying Machines, so catchy, so rocking, just very, very memorable instrumental guitar rock stuff. With great riffs, lyrical solos, wonderful stuff. Dying Day, another really memorable track. Blowfish is nice and heavy. Hand on Heart has some really dreamy soloing as only Steve can do. He's using the whammy bar and just really, really cool stuff. What else? Bangkok. Again, using some of those kind of like ethnic Asian sounds. Really kind of weird, but works, and just very dreamy, awesome stuff. And then you got the 10-minute title track, which just has some absolutely wild arrangements and just killer soloing from Vai, who's doing, tapping and whammy bar and wow, all this kind of stuff. Just really, really good. But then we get into phase 2, which to me, all these vocal oriented pieces, not all that interesting. I just, and especially here because he's first starting to sing on this album, and he just doesn't. He's not a really strong singer, but musically speaking, it's really good. Like Aching Hunger is kind of fun. It sounds like a long lost tube song. Pretty cool. But most of them, they're just not all that appealing. And again, it just sounds like we're just going to do vocal pieces, or I'm just going to do vocal pieces just to do vocal pieces. And you're kind of missing all the drama and the acrobatics from some of the earlier stuff. I give him credit for doing this sort of thing, right? He's trying to branch out. So I don't begrudge him at all for trying the more vocal oriented stuff. But to me, if you trim this album down to just the phase one stuff and maybe one or two of the vocal pieces, you got a really strong, like kind of like 45, 50-minute record that would rank way higher in the catalog. So I think like half of it I love. The other half is just kind of like just doesn't really do it all for me. So there you have that. All right. So next up, and I think I'm done with the Prezi. I can turn this off because I have everything else here. There we go. As I switch around right now, you can see everything perfectly fine. All right. So then we're going to go to the Story of Light from 2012. So this is his eighth album. So this is the second in the Real Illusions trilogy. To me, this one is kind of less out there than the first part. The Story of Light, majestic instrumental. Again, got those little spoken word vocals, which, to me are just more annoying than anything else. It's like, I don't want to hear that. Let's just hear everything else that's going on. Vel Room rocks, great guitar work. Then you got like a weird take, cover of John the Revelator, which then morphs into Book of the Seven Seals. It's kind of like Vai doing this like kind of bluesy gospel type thing. It just doesn't sound like it belongs here at all. It just doesn't really work for me. Then you got Creamsicle Sunset, absolutely lovely, great guitar tones. I also love when he does the cleaner guitar tone stuff. Really, really good. Gravity Storm, probably the best song on here. Absolutely crushing instrumental, big riffs, blazing lead guitar. That's what I want to hear. Awesome, awesome song. The Moon and I, that's a pretty cool little vocal piece. I don't mind that too much. Gorgeous lead guitar on that. Weeping China Doll, another mind-blowing instrumental. And Sunshine Electric Raindrops is how you do an anthemic rock guitar instrumental. It's catchy, it's hooky, you don't need vocals on it, and it just draws you right in. So overall, some real winners here. A few things kind of confuse me, and I'm wondering like why they're here. But I think overall, there's some enough here to really enjoy. And like I mentioned before, he has yet to finish this trilogy. And this was 2012. So this is already 12 years ago. Will he ever go back to it at this point? I have no idea. We'll see. All right, next up, we're going to go to number 5 is Flexible from 1984. Debut album. So this was recorded shortly after Steve left Frank Zappa's band and right before he joined Alcatraz. Very different to his later albums, especially the few that came after. This is less overtly guitar oriented and very, very Zappish. Very Zappish. Lots of guest musicians. You got Stu Hamm is on here, Chris Frazier, Chad Wackerman, Tommy Mars, Scott Collard, many, many others. Starts off with Little Green Men from Mars. It could have been a Zappa song. It's very silly. It's very whimsical. It's very frank. But musically, very, very complex. That's the thing. It's like he learned so much from working with Zappa from a composition standpoint. All these little weird things that are going on. It's just all Zappa. All Zappa. Viv Woman, more of a guitar rocker. You got the quirky pop of Lovers Are Crazy. Again, has that Zappa weirdness to it, which I really like. Salamanders in the Sun, quite proggy. You get the sing-along pop of the boy-girl song. What are you gonna do with you? Loads of fun, right? It's nothing like Steve ever did again, but it's just fun. Then you have the Attitude song. That's the big shredderific song on the album, right? Love the groove to it. The guitars are blazing. You have Call It Sleep, which has some really nice, tasty screaming guitars. Again, I love when he does the more clean stuff. It's just really, really good. Junkie, weird, but it's got some cool shredding guitars. And then There's Something Dead in Here is another kind of bizarro Zappa world slice of weirdness, right? It's like you listen to it, you're like, whatever. But the guitar work is so good. It's an oddball album, but it's so appealing at the same time because, like, as his first album, it's so cool. Good stuff. Really good stuff. What else? Number 4. All right, so I'm going to go with, the top the top four are just to me really, really great and kind of hard to rank them. But I'm going to go with Sex and Religion from 1993. This is his third album. So this was meant to be, after those first couple, he wanted to put together like a superhuman band of like some of the, most top-notch musicians he could find. And pretty much that's what he's done here. So he's got, at the time, an unknown guy on vocals named Devin Townsend. Perhaps you've heard of him. Terry Bozzio on drums, T.M. Stevens on bass. So, take Devin out of the equation, look at who we have left there. I mean, that's pretty amazing. But it only became a one-off. So they did this album and it just kind of imploded from there, which is kind of a shame because I think the potential of what they could have done is pretty incredible. Uh, you know, Here and Now and In My Dreams kick it off. Both are just terrific. This is how you write, again, if you have the right people and you have the right singer, you can write vocal oriented stuff that shows off all this crazy guitar work and chops, right? I think he was missing on some of the later stuff where Steve is doing all the vocals. He's missing a guy like Devin Townsend who can deliver these type of songs and really fill in what the vocal parts that need to be there. Because Devin just sounds terrific on here. I mean, Here and Now and In My Dreams are both catchy songs with blazing playing and just rocking, great stuff. He sounds fantastic. Still My Bleeding Heart, another hook-laden song, just so memorable. Title track is a hard-hitting anthem, and then you got Devin doing his kind of like maniacal thing, which we would hear quite a lot on his next outing, Strapping Young Lad, his next band that he forms after this. Dirty Black Hole. I mean, he's given all this crazy stuff. Awesome. Touching Tongues, really cool melodic instrumental with some blazing guitars. State of Grace has all these weird kind of sitar sounds, pretty cool. Pig is another crazy, shredding, heavy rocker with wild Devin Townsend vocals. Awesome song, as is Down Deep in the Pain. Right, that's like the crazy song on here. That's like almost Strapping and Glad territory. Very cool. Then you got the big long Rescue Me or Bury Me, which is atmospheric but has some just lethal Vai guitar soloing. I think Terry Bozzio sounds great on here throughout the whole album. T.M. Stevens as well. There's some killer stuff on here. Too bad this was kind of mostly ignored at the time. I think this is 93, so obviously the world is moving on to other types of music, and I think the momentum of the instrumental guitar albums had already ended. But I think in a perfect world, this should have been a really big album, and it just wasn't, and that was all we heard from that lineup, sadly. But yeah, good stuff. Number 3, I'm going to go with Inviolate, his most recent album from 2022, 10th album. Speaking of Terry Bozzio, he's back. Vinnie Colaiuta's here. Jeremy Colson, Brian Beller, Billy Sheehan, Philip Bino, Henrik Linder all appear, all instrumental once again. Steve is back to doing all instrumental stuff. This is the Hydra guitar, right, that he helped create. 3 necks, plays them all. It's just nuts. You get Teeth of the Hydra, which is the first song on here, which features this guitar. Absolutely immense. All sorts of cool stuff going on. Zeus and Chains, majestic, anthemic. You got the melodic Little Pretty, the funky, quirky Candle Power, the playful Apollo in Color, which has some amazing solos on it. You got Avalancha, which just totally just crushes, big, heavy song. And you got Greenish Blues, which to me is kind of like a distant cousin to For the Love of God. If you like that kind of slower, more emotional, bluesy vibe, it's a really, really great song. And then you got this song called Knapsack, which was recorded just after Steve had shoulder surgery on his right shoulder and he couldn't use his picking hand. So he recorded this song in the studio, all using just his left hand. If you go on to YouTube, you can actually see a video of him doing this. And it's just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just no picking at all. It's like, my Lord, he's doing all that stuff just with the one hand. It's amazing. You got Sandman Cloud Mist, which is just beautiful, finishes up the album in spectacular fashion. I mean, this is, to me, one of his best, and I could have probably ranked it higher because I think consistently from track 1 till the end, it just, every song is just really, really great on there. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Inviolate. All right, number 2. So I decided to include this one. Technically, it's always been listed as an EP, but it's 33 minutes long. Nowadays, if you get over 30 minutes, that's an album. I mean, how many artists do we see releasing brand new albums today that are 33, 34, 35, 36 minutes, right? So Alien Love Secrets, I'm counting it here as a full release. It's 33 minutes and change. This is from 1995. So it's either his 4th album or because they call it an EP. Maybe it's not his fourth album, but I think there's some amazing stuff on here. This is how, if we're calling an EP today or back then, this is a jam-packed EP. And if we're calling a regular album today, there's not a weak moment on here. Bad Horse, he kicks it off, just grinding, heavy wah-wah fest, just so good. Juice, up-tempo rocker. Die to Live, big anthemic, right? Stunning lead work. The Boy from Seattle, wonderful clean guitar riffs and melodies. Just, I mean, love the tone of the guitar. Yayo Gak, just bizarre silliness with his then baby Julian doing the little vocalization. Yayo Gak and him doing the screaming guitar alongside it. Just awesome stuff. Kill the Guy with the Ball. Heavy shredding, wah-wah guitars all over the place. And then, of course, it ends with Tender Surrender, which to me is like the direct sequel to For the Love of God. Just absolutely amazing. These silky Hendrixy guitar tones and melodies. I mean, his technique and feel on this is just off the charts, and doing all this really cool whammy bar stuff and tapping, and it's just all so gorgeous and expertly layered. I mean, that's how you make a guitar talk, folks. So to me, this is just absolutely wonderful. Alien Love Secrets, just great. And of course, number one, it has to be Passion and Warfare. So this is from 1990, his second album, his first in 6 years. So this was recorded right after leaving David Lee Roth's band and as he's joining Whitesnake. And you got lots of guests on here, backing vocalists, all sorts of people. Stu Hams on bass, Chris Frazier, Tristan Bowden on drums, David Rosenthal on keys, and like a million, you got the guys from Whitesnake appear on here, and stuff. But, you listen to this and you can tell how much he improved as a player and how much more confident his abilities, not only as a songwriter, but as a musician from the Flexible album, which is mind-blowing too. But yeah, to me, he's grown leaps and bounds as a player here. This is basically all zany, high energy guitar rock. You got Liberty kicks it off, just so majestic. Erotic Nightmares just completely shreds. The Animal is this grinding heavy piece with some screaming soloing. You got Answers, which has more of a playful, almost fusion feel. You got The Riddle, which is kind of anthemic, but squeezes in some of those weird Zappa influences. You got Ballerina 1224. It's just really gorgeous. Again, really unique stuff. And then, to me, the greatest song he ever recorded on is For the Love of God, which it's beautiful, it's savage, it's so emotional. The soloing, the tone, it's just breathtaking. It's one of my favorite guitar rock instrumentals of all time. It's just so good. And if you've seen any of the live, I've seen him play it live, and it's just like, it just never fails to bring me to tears. It's just so amazing. The Audience Is Listening is like a high energy Van Halen style rocker, really cool. I Would Love To is melodic, catchy, anthemic. Blue Powder. So Blue Powder is an older song that he recorded, I believe it was in conjunction with Carvin Amps at the time. They included in Guitar Player magazine, I believe it was in 1986, they included like a little flexi disc of this song. And it's basically him and Stu Ham, and I forget who plays drums on it. And I remember the first time I ever heard that, I was kind of like, "Holy crap! Listen to this!" I remember I pulled that little flexi disc out of the Guitar Player magazine, put it on my turntable. It was all warped and whatever, but I was like just listening to the crazy grooves and soloing, just so good. Killer song. Greasy Kid Stuff, another wild Zappa inspired song, and then you get the lovely and Delicate Sisters, which is great. The spacey, kind of weird Love Secrets. I mean, I think it's an outstanding album. Otherworldly guitar playing. I mean, at the time I listened to this a ton for years to come. And to me, this was kind of like I was totally into Yngwie, but this became the kind of instrumental guitar album that all others would be judged by going forward. And of course, you got Surfer with the Alien from Satriani, another mind blower. All these things just coming out right around this time. So just, or, either right before or right after. But yeah, for me, this is my number one for Mr. Vai. So yeah, that's my ranking, guys. So let us know what you think of these albums and how you would rank them. I think there's tons of great guitar playing on these, of course. Like I said, not all of these albums are drop dead classics. To me, the first handful, I think, at least the first 4 or 5 are mandatory. Everything kind of for me in my ranking after Flexible has plenty of great moments. And I think that if you were to kind of take all the best stuff off of all those, the second half of my list, you've got damn great album, right? But to me, not all of it kind of works, but there's still plenty of great stuff on there. I do want to mention, so he released an album, oh God, I think this was last year, called Vigash, which was basically something that he had recorded, I think, around the White Snake time period, something like that, before or after White Snake, something like that. And a good buddy of his, Johnny Gash Sombrato, I guess they both were motorcycle enthusiasts. Johnny was a singer, and they just recorded a bunch of songs, just hard rock songs, and it just kind of like sat in the vaults forever. And then Johnny wound up getting into a bad motorcycle accident. He recently passed away, and these songs were just sitting there, basically just melodic hard rock songs. And Johnny sounds a lot like Graham Bonnet on the vocals, right? So, a year or so ago, he decided, kind of as a tribute to his buddy who passed away, to release these songs called Steve Vai Presents Vai Gash. It's a pretty fun little album. It's roughly about a half hour long, maybe a little bit longer. It's nothing groundbreaking at all, but it's kind of cool to hear Steve just playing guitar and letting, his buddy really steal the show on here. Is a pretty good singer. So that's worth hearing. It's nothing essential, but it's worth hearing. Then there's live stuff. I mean, this is a mind-blowing live album. There's others. Then you got these the various artists archives, volume 1, 2, and 3, mystery tracks and things like that, all sorts of related Steve Vai stuff. You got these, and there's other things out there too as well. There's so much stuff. Some of these have like stuff released in Japan only, and soundtracky things and tributes, and all sorts of stuff. So the world of Steve Vai, as far as everything he has recorded on, is pretty vast. But to me, there's like, whether you want to say, you can either say it's 9, 10, or 11 studio records, right? Whether you include the flexible leftovers or the EP, which I said really isn't an EP because it's 33 minutes long. So, but lots of good stuff here. So if you are a fan, rank them as you like them down in the comments below. And if you've never listened to any of these albums, I think you've got some good places to start here. So have fun. So anyway, thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all the content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. Thank you in advance for all your support there. And we'll see you soon here with more stuff. Got Hudson Valley Squares coming up tomorrow. New review day on Wednesday, Monsters Den on Thursday, Friday morning to Funhouse with Martin Popoff. UK Connection next Saturday, and ranking the albums next Sunday as well. I'm not quite sure exactly what's coming up next Sunday. Grant Arthur and I have a couple that we're working on. We're going to be doing Firefall, Roadmaster, Tommy Shaw solo, and Mark Farner solo. Those are the ones that Grant and I are going to be doing. I don't know which one. I think Firefall is coming next. I just don't know if it's next weekend or the weekend after. I've also got Count Ralphus and Ryan Scow and I are going to be ranking the albums of Sodom for all you German thrash fans. So that's coming up. I'm also going to be ranking the albums of Lucifer. Okay. If I was waiting for the new album to come out, now that it's out, I think I can do that. And then I'll do the ranking, and they'll come out with another album in a year. It's the way it always works. Rick Labonte and I are going to be ranking the Paul McCartney solo albums. That's also coming up in the weeks ahead. And there's lots more on the calendar. Jamie Laszlo and Karen LaPreziosa and I will be doing Yob. Again, I'm not quite sure when we're doing that. I had a conversation with Jamie the other day. He's like, oh, why don't we wait to do that till the weather gets cooler in the fall? So we may hold off on that a little bit, and maybe that'll give them enough time to put out a new album. I don't know. But the list is long of the ranking shows. So there's plenty more other than the ones I just mentioned. Stephen Reed and I still need to get around to do The Tangent and Palace. George Lamy and I are going to be working on Angra for all you power metal fans. That's also coming. George and Eric Porter and I also talked about doing drawing complete blank Protocol, Simon Phillips Protocol as well. So very cool fusion band led by Simon Phillips. So there's lots that are on the list. We just got to start getting everything scheduled. So that's how it works. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. More ranking shows coming up each and every Sunday. Till then, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow in the Hudson Valley Squares. Take care. Bye-bye.